Arizona straight to the line. There's the snap to Murray. Murray looks left, pumps once, looking. A lot of time. Now he throws, and it's intercepted by the Lions. Picked off down the left sideline. Aurier picks up a block at the 30, 25, 20, Amani 10, 5, and he's spun out of bounds right there. I see you, 24. I see you. Welcome back to the Twentyman in the Huddle podcast. I am your host, Tim Twentyman, the senior writer for DetroitLions.com, and I am joined today by Brian Duger, who is the safeties coach for the Detroit Lions. You joined the team last year as a defensive assistant. Before that, you were with the Baltimore Ravens for 3 years, and you held a title of defensive analyst. And I got to start there, Brian. All right, so it's Week 16. You guys are facing the Steelers on Sunday. What does John Harbaugh dump on your desk on a Monday as a defensive analyst? Just speak to me a little bit about that role and kind of what that job entails.
Absolutely. Shoot, on a Monday. All right, so Monday, so then I guess we're just going over the game before. So much of that job for me was really just helping our defense coordinator guy, Wink Martindale. It really just, in any way I could. I was kind of his right-hand man. So that entailed a whole bunch of things. So, Monday would be immediately game review, going over, doing a lot of stuff with the Wink, grading the guys, having, but also a self-scout from us. Okay, what do we do? What was successful for us just from that previous game? Okay, and then as soon as we basically finished that, then it was immediately start spinning to the next opponent. Okay, so now getting ahead, breaking down, had certain areas responsible for, 2-minute, things like that would help with, some different things. And so I had all my different areas of the game plan that I would kind of have to present and give reports to Wink and have those ready to go and then pass those on to Coach Harbaugh as well. That was early in the week, and then as we get going later in the week, now it's a lot of, spending time together. Wink and I spent a lot of time together putting the call sheet for the next opponent together, So consistently doing that. And then I was also in a helper with the defensive backs there, so whatever came up with that room with Coach Chris Hewitt was the defensive backs coach, and things would come up there, and after that, it was any other thing that showed up.
I just view that as like you in a little. It sounds to me like a ton of film, right? Like you have this little corner office that's like dark in the in the little secluded place in the building. That's the defensive analyst office, like right there. So how much do you enjoy now? You have the title now of working with the Detroit Lions safeties.
Yeah.
So how much do you like that role of working with players? Now I'm sure you did that as a defensive analyst as well, but it's more about you've got your own room now. You've got that kind of thing. How much do you enjoy that aspect of it now?
This role for me is a ton of fun. This is the most fun I've ever had coaching football. This is awesome. In addition to, that old role, there was a lot of, like you're talking about, the film and some things like that, some really deep dives on self-scout and, some numbers involved with that as well. But this is an opportunity to kind of really just be able to focus on the defensive back group and really use safeties specifically. And really, all I get to do is spend time with them and think, how can I make them better and put tapes together for them. And guys come in and meet with me. We watch practice all the time. So it's so much more daily interaction with guys, and it's really talking. It's the football side of it specifically, right?
And so the fun part, right?
Exactly.
So, but how does that job as a defensive analyst, defensive assistant, how has that helped you, do you think, in your role now as the new Lions safeties coach?
Oh, it helped me a ton of ways. First and foremost, it's just the constant exposure to, all right, the more and more tape you watch, okay? So you watch so much tape, you really get familiar with route concepts around the league and things like that, protections, run game, and that really easily lets you kind of communicate to the guys what can be expected here, kind of gives you all some tips for, okay, what's coming for us formationally, and then also gives you the opportunity, just, my time there was able to spend a lot of time with defensive backs room and just learned a whole bunch of football there, things I'm able to echo to the guys here.
Now, you were an intern in Cleveland, I think 2016, is that correct? Somewhere right around there. Did you cross paths with Aaron?
Yeah, AG was on staff. He was, I think,
okay, so you've got a little bit of a history with AG. What was that conversation like last year when he's like, hey, Brian, I want to bring you on?
That for me, and knowing AG and what kind of guy he was, and AG was just awesome. Even in my short time, we just overlapped for 1 year in Cleveland, but I had a ton of respect for him. I, obviously, just like the kind of person he was, and knew the kind of football coach that he was. I knew he'd be successful as defensive coordinator. Yeah. So as soon as he and I talked, I was very excited about the opportunity to come here and work under his leadership.
So you've got a bachelor's and an MBA. I saw. What's your bachelor's in?
I'm a dual major in economics and sports management.
Economics and sports management with an MBA in.
And I got a master's of business. Yep, and just a general business focus.
And it was always football for you?
I don't really use either of those right now, but it's fun to have, I guess.
you come over from a defense where you spent 3 seasons in Baltimore. Obviously, tops in terms of fewest points, fewest net yards while you were there, 4th in forced fumbles, 5th in pass defense. I think they had 8 Pro Bowlers in your time there. When you came over here and what they're trying to institute and what AG is building there, when you look at someone established like Baltimore and then you come over to something trying to get to that point, what's the biggest difference, do you think? Why was that defense so good in Baltimore? Was it just a matter of player scheme? Is it mentality? What is it about? What do you guys need to do to kind of build that kind of consistency that you got used to when you were in Baltimore?
You listed multiple things there. I think it's really all of the above. There's a long version of that answer. So first and foremost, we had great players, right? Great players make you a great defensive coach. So part of us building a great defense here, obviously you can see what we've done over the past couple of years and things that start to Brad right away, right? But also then our ability to develop those guys. Okay, so guys like even just Jerry Jacobs and AJ Parker. I'm just thinking of undrafted guys last year that contributed a lot for us, right? So Brad gets us great players. We develop great players. So first and foremost, it's the players. Okay, I think kind of after that, the things you get into, just having great scheme. Obviously that's something we have here with AG that I feel really confident in. And then just kind of one thing that always kind of stuck out to me there was they expected to be great on defense, right? Mm-hmm. And so just kind of instilling that belief in the guys, and part of that confidence comes from it. Really, I would say exceeding your goals, right? Okay, so guys coming out, if you generate success, then you expect to continue to have success. Confidence comes from demonstrated success, and so as the guys had success, they got really confident and they expected to play great defense.
Yeah.
So I think as we grow here, those guys have the expectation to play great defense, and then there's a certain standard you hold yourself to in practice based on that. Okay, or there's a certain standard you hold yourself to in the game. It's not okay for little mistakes to happen. There's not okay for me not to run to the ball. Because great defenses run to the ball, that's what we do here, right? And it's just the guys having that.
So you're working with the safeties, which means you're obviously working pretty closely with Aubrey Pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a high-rising kind of coach, young coach in this league, interviewed for some defensive coordinator jobs. Just what's it been like working with Aubrey and just the energy it seems like he brings? You almost feel like you have to match that sometimes, don't you?
So you're absolutely right. So sometimes it goes both ways. So sometimes AG or AP just is so high that I'm almost like, all right, let me be the calm one. Sometimes
you're even it out a little bit.
But also just he and I think are a really great balance together. It's been awesome for me working with him. Really, I've learned a lot of football from him, and that was even part of the conversation we talked about earlier with me talking to AG about coming here. I was really excited knowing that AP was here and just knowing his reputation around the league and knowing that I was somebody I was going to be able to learn from. So it's been awesome. I mean, he's great every day. He and I in there just really enjoy it. I've learned a ton of football and just. He and I have really grown. I feel like together in the second round, it's been awesome.
One guy that's Brad brought over in free agency, DeShon Elliott, a guy who obviously you know from your time in Baltimore, but just what kind of addition can he be to the Lions? I mean, obviously he dealt with injuries. Last year only played 6 games, but I think it was 2020. I mean, he played 16 games and 80 tackles, some sacks, some tackles for loss, got his hands on footballs, forced a couple fumbles. Just what kind of player are the Lions getting if DeShon Elliott can stay healthy?
DeShon is a great player. I was very excited with him being available, just knowing first and foremost what kind of person he was and what kind of football player is. This guy really likes football.
Yeah.
This is a good person. He likes is wrong, but he loves football. He is all about football. So I knew that we were going to get a tough player. Just going back to some of the things that Coach Campbell always talks about, like grit being a huge part of us. I knew right away there was no question that he was going to fit our culture and even help perpetuate our culture amongst the team. So that was really, really important. And then I've seen him. I know he's a really rangy safety. I know he's a hard hitter. I know he's got really good ball skills, so I just thought he was a perfect fit for us.
How do you like that pair with Tracy, too? Obviously, Tracy re-signed this offseason. Brad and Dan have both said he's kind of one of those core pieces to this football team. When you watched Tracy last year and you've watched the cut-ups and everything else, what does Trace need to do to maybe take that next step, be that top echelon type safety in this league? Is it just as simple as ball production? Do you think he's already that guy? Maybe I'm speaking – I'll let you answer.
I started laughing, and the reason I started laughing is because the number one thing we kind of joke with Tracy about is just catch the damn ones they throw to you, right? So he probably dropped a few picks last year that what guys would have started to talk about him in kind of that upper echelon category of safeties. He was able to catch those.
It really is just ball production at some point, right? I mean, the guys
but
who
he's
get
there,
interceptions.
And he dropped a few last year, right? So, so I don't even want but he's getting in really good position. He'll catch those this year. I'm confident guys will kind of see he's already in my opinion, in the upper echelon of safeties, and I think the owners in the league didn't perceive him that way last year is because of his pick production. And that's a big part of the way guys are judged. But I mean, the things that he's shown last year was just tremendous leadership, tremendous communicator. He has great range. He's very instinctive. The things that we're kind of growing on this year, just continuing to try to take it even to the next level with that football awareness. We'll continue. He's kind of grown as a tackler, and then the ball production's going to, the pick production's really going to come with that, and he will be a recognized man this year, I think.
So it sounds like, from your description of both guys, it seems like a pretty nice tandem. Like those skill sets seem to fit pretty well together. And we saw like it's helmets and shorts, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we got to wait till the pads come off before you guys can see anything. Yeah. But what you've gleaned so far, pretty nice pair there at that safety position. Yeah. Nice complementing skill sets.
Yeah, I think you could see it at practice that like those guys, two great guys that love football, like they get along great. Like those two already have a really good dynamic together, great communicators and really good skill sets. And both of them are really kind of versatile players, can do a number of things. And so it kind of really lets us be multiple. And I think both of them kind of recognize by having the other guy, it opens up part of their game and kind of lets them be more multiple, and they're really good, like disguising together. Yeah. They're really on the same page. It's been really fun to watch so far.
So they made some changes to the front seven. They're going to be more of attacking style after being kind of that 3-4 read and react. It's more kind of getting on the heels of the offensive linemen, attacking. Same thing kind of with the linebackers. I had Calvin Shepard on the pod last week. We talked about that. But how does that affect you guys now on the back end, some of those changes on defense?
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, a little bit the change you kind of referenced there, a little bit more attacking up front, right?
Yeah.
So first one I'm hoping is that we get a bunch more sacks and then the ball's out, but they get the ball out a little fast. And then kind of deeper dive into that more scheme-wise, I would say the biggest thing is probably run fit-wise. There's going to have to be times that the tempo of the safeties in the run fit will probably have to speed up a little bit relative to last year.
Okay.
At times almost because of the penetration. And just kind of the fits are going to be a little bit different. Some of those things will happen a little bit faster for those guys when they're coming down into the box. Probably the tempo at which we did that is probably a little more increased.
Is it still a split safety look?
Yes. Okay. Yes. That's who we are on defense.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And when you talk about guys coming down in the box, is it nice to have a guy like DeShon and Tracy? It seems like both guys can play that role, so you can be a little bit versatile with how you use those guys in the back end, because it looks like the skill set from what you described of the run fits that both of those guys can play that role. Seems like it gives you guys some versatility back there.
I think absolutely. That's one of the things, just like you kind of referenced right there. And the same thing we kind of talked about earlier, those guys being interchangeable. Some teams are really structured. If you look at it, they have like designated box safety and a designated deep safety, right? And you can kind of get a tell, okay, where's the box safety? Oh, that's where he's coming down.
And you can scheme against that a little bit offensively. Absolutely. A little bit better.
I think it's a good indicator for the quarterbacks a lot of times. Oh, this guy's coming down, right? So don't run it to this guy if he's coming down. With us being really interchangeable, they don't really know that at all, and we can kind of plug guys at different spots, and I think it just lets us be a little bit more attack oriented as a defense.
A little bit of the news in the first week of OTAs was Ifeatu Melifonwu, Detroit's third-round draft pick last year. Dealt with injuries, really a rough rookie season for him, but showed some signs at the end of the season that he's playing really well at corner. You guys have moved him. He played both safety and corner at the first open OTA practice. What was it about him, his skill set, that you guys liked at safety, and maybe just speak to how he's transitioning into playing kind of a dual role for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the first thing with If is that If is such a unique athlete. Mm-hmm. He's really a great chess piece, right? So he can cover body types that not everybody can, right?
It's 6'3", 210 if you don't know out there.
So he's great.
If he's a big guy.
So if, based on his size, by week, it might be a different person to line up at different spots that we need him. So it might be a really big outside receiver. It might be a tight end. It might be, but his best matchup every week could be a lot of different places. For that reason,
give him
the more different places that he can line up for us. He's just a general DB. So don't think of If as a corner, don't think of him as a safety. He's a DB, and he's a really good matchup guy. And so for us to kind of be able to easily plug and place him where we need him, he just needs to know more on the back end. And he's so smart, and he grasps it all so well that it's not a problem at all. So we said, go ahead, let's put this on his plate, and that'll just kind of let us kind of put him in the best positions.
As a defensive coach, how nice is it to have a piece like this? Because this is a matchup league, right? I mean, you're always trying to find those, and some of these tight ends that you guys are having to defend now, I mean, are unbelievable. I mean, such matchup. Watch some of these slot corners and some of these big wide receivers out wide. How nice is it to have a guy with size 6'3", 210, can run 4.4, can cover and can play some of these different body types? Just how much of an advantage is it as a defense coach to have a guy like that you can match up with?
It's great. I've heard the phrase before, like you were with receiver corps, you're trying to build a basketball team, right?
Yeah.
You got some little guards, some big forwards, and you're trying to mix
That's
and
a
match.
good analogy, yeah.
Well, guess what? We're trying to do the same thing as DBs
Defense,
now. Okay,
yeah.
so we've got If out there. He can cover. He's kind of let's call him a forward for us. He can kind of cover some of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we had a guy like Mike Hughes who's got a bunch of quickness, right? He can kind of cover some of the smaller guys. So shoot, the same way the Celtics are trying to find their matchup for the Warriors right here, right? We're kind of doing the same thing here on the back end.
One guy I want to talk about, Kerby Joseph, draft pick this year. What was it about him? Had a long, distinguished career at Illinois. What was it about him that jumped out to you on tape, and how does he maybe fit into the mix as well?
The first thing that jumped out to me on tape about Kerby was his ball skills. Yeah. No question. The guy
former wide receiver.
Productive.
Yeah.
Yes. Super productive in college, and really instinctual. So was able to put himself in the right position, and then has very good ball skills. Can track it really well when he gets it. Just really good athlete. He shows up on. I watched him and Tracy do those backflips out there in practice the other day. I was like, my gosh, this kid's athletic. So right away, that's what jumped off the tape to me. Just really good ball skills, and shows his athleticism, his body control, his ability to track the ball. But that was what jumped off. That's what we were like. That we want that, and that's kind of what made us go get him. And since he's been here, he's been awesome. Extremely, and as far as we talked about Trace and DeShon earlier, and how much those guys love football and really study it. Kerb's is getting right there with him, right? And it's awesome to have those guys ahead of him so he can kind of see what good vets look like. But Kerb's getting right there with them. He's just the younger version of it, so he's just right there, just giving everything they've got to offer him as well.
You like young guys that attach themselves to vets like that too? You should. You have to, right?
If you're a smart young player and there's a good vet ahead of you, and this guy's had success in the league, and you're not trying to learn everything you can from him, like, you're crazy. Like, why would you leave that out there?
So how hard are you guys on film study? Because being a former guy whose job was film, I mean, Are you hard on these guys to watch the film, to be prepared, or do you not have to be at this level? And maybe the guys in your room, do they love that aspect of it? Do they take pride in that?
Yeah, the guys in our room, it's easy. They love it, and they want as much as they can. So they'll come all the time and try. For me, it's very easy. It's not. I'm not. Obviously, I'll spend a whole bunch of time with them and give them everything I've got, but I'm not poking and prodding them to do it. But we're able, because they're so smart, I would say we're really able to have kind of in-depth conversations and anticipate things that we see, and they can kind of understand the big picture and put it all together.
Is the terminology, the language, the changes that they've made on defense, do those affect you guys a lot too, or are things pretty much the same in your room? Or I guess, how has the transition been to some of the new pieces on defense? It's not new language, is it, other than just maybe some different scheme type stuff? Or is the adjustment real big this offseason?
I would say the biggest way is just kind of how we attack up front. That was kind of one of the things we talked about, right? We did change some of the verbiage. We're always trying to make it easier, right? We're always, every year, it's our job as coaches to put a really great but easily learnable and digestible package together. And so every year, I'm sure it'll change every year, but okay, so from last year being our first year, I think probably the biggest jump or the biggest change in language will be from that first year to that second year.
Yeah.
So it did change. I wouldn't call it dramatic. It was more just try to streamline some things and make it easier for the guys to learn.
All right, Brian, big picture.
Yeah.
The Lions defense is better in 2022 if what? What's that big piece, do you think? Like, how do you guys take that big step? Because, look, the numbers are what the numbers. And look, you guys played a lot of young guys. And you guys improved defensively from the beginning of last year to the end of last year. But what, in your mind, kind of speeds up that process for you? You guys are a better defense if you can do what better than you did last year?
Yeah. So my first thought, you said the Lions defense is better if. Well, you could take the if out. The Lions defense is better in 2022. That's kind of how I felt immediately.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the players, right? Because as we talked about earlier, it's all about the players.
Right.
Okay, so the first way it's going to be better is we continue to grow and add to the roster. Brad's done a great job, adding to the roster over the last 2 years, just guys through the draft. And then you bring in a good free agent guys. Some of the guys we alluded to earlier.
Right.
DeShon just coming to mind as one of the safeties. And so I think, all right, so the development of those guys continuing to grow, and all these guys we got a really young roster, right? Like, so just the development of those players alone is going to make us better on
Right.
defense. I think additionally from the coaching side of it, things that we've done to make it better in the same way that we just talked about, okay, we every year we're trying to make it better. So after year one, we kind of took a really deep dive and a really hard look at ourselves. Okay, what did and did not work for us, and let's try to streamline this package. Let's really focus on what works. Let's have enough compliments off of that to make us still be able to attacking an aggressive style defense. I would say that's it. Better players and a scheme kind of packaged together with it.
The changes on defense, do you think the ability to affect the quarterback is obviously huge? And it doesn't have to be sacks all the time, as you know. Getting a guy off his spot, hurrying his clock so that you guys on the back end get your hands on footballs and make plays. With the scheme changes and some of the players that they've added, and some of the guys are getting back. Romeo's obviously a big piece there, and adding Aiden. Do you think that aspect of it and being able to pressure the quarterback, I mean, your 30 sacks were third fewest in the NFL last year. I think second worst pass rush win rate. When that aspect of the defense is better, doesn't everything just kind of fall in place behind it as well? And was that one of the big things you guys targeted as, hey, we've got to be able to affect the quarterback a little bit better because it'll help every single aspect on defense?
No question that's true, right? Obviously, as the front gets better and we're able to, I would say, maybe finish some of those stats, because even I know some of the stats you just cited, but if you watch tape last year, I do think there was times that our guys were good at getting them off the spot and kind of affecting the quarterback and speeding up his clock, but maybe don't have the sack production to match that, and maybe the numbers to back that up. But right. I do feel good about what we were able to do and some of the players we were able to have to affect it. Obviously, even continue to grow on that will be good, and that'll help us on the back end because the ball will be out quicker. But as a safeties coach here on the back end, well, shoot, we got to cover them longer, and then the sacks will come. So let's just, you know what I mean? I think it's a give and take on both sides of it.
Just from talking with you now, you seem excited about this year and what this defense can be. When I talked to Calvin last week, it was the same thing. Just there is a genuine excitement. You've got, I think, one player over 29 years old on this entire roster. You've got young players. How the defense performed the second half of last year versus the first half of last year, and then these players who are going to take big leaps. We talk about the biggest jump in development usually with the players from year one to year two. So all those things combined, you seem generally excited about kind of the direction that this defense is heading and the improvements that Lions fans can probably expect.
Yeah, no question about that. I feel very good about the direction of the defense. I feel very good about the direction of the team as a whole, but just speaking very specifically to defense, I'm very excited. Even, just that the dialed in menu there, just more very excited about the direction of the secondary and us being able to, I think we got a lot of good players that maybe don't get the recognition around the league that they should, and this would be the year for those guys to kind of make that jump as well. So,
yeah, definitely. You like where the safety room is at, the versatility you got. We talked about some of the individual guys, but it seems like a pretty good mix of skill sets and the depth. That was one of the positions with linebacker, maybe a few question marks heading into the offseason, but you feel pretty good about the depth and kind of what you guys have in that safety room right now.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the safety group. Obviously we talked about Tracy and DeShon. Okay, those guys being great communicators and good veterans at this point. We talked about Kerby being a really good young prospect guy who's up and coming. We talked about as the matchup piece, right? But you know what I mean? That'd be, we would be doing negligence to not give credit
Moore's
to
another
I was going
guy.
to say CJ, who's been a great special teams player for us and is a really, loves football, goes in there, a tough guy, is another good matchup piece with his speed and plays a bunch of dime reps for us and is really versatile. We've got other guys coming on. Brady Breeze doing a great job in there. Savion Smith's doing a great job as well. So I don't want to discount those guys.
No,
as well.
for sure. So it should be a fun training camp for
Absolutely.
Lions fans to watch that safety
fun right
position
now.
and kind of see how it plays out.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate it. That's another episode of 20 Men in the Huddle. Appreciate you guys.